guys, what's up? So today we're talking about something I like to call anchoring, cornering, and combining that with overloading. So we have this chest position here that we can vary depending on the situation and what skills that we're trying to build. So the most basic one of how I call this anchoring is when I'm trying to push up a pawn, I have it anchored by a rook. So that rook is always providing backup to that pawn. So it makes it much harder for me to try to attack that pawn. For example, by anchoring that pawn, and my opponent decides to block me here with the rook on a8 to prevent the pawn from going forwards, that's totally fun because I got backup here. I'm in totally fine position. And then now we talk about cornering. So what I mean by cornering is I'm going to set up a piece and I'm going to use the pawn for backup and corner this rook and this king. Black has to end up taking this rook. I take the rook and eventually get my queen back because I had it anchored. I then cornered the king, forcing a trade of pieces, allowing me to get my queen back and to finish the game. So if we rewind this position a little bit into something like this, sometimes our opponent will recognize that we're trying to anchor them, we're trying to corner them. So they provide additional backup to prevent us from executing the corner. And all we do is we just use our other pieces to overload the pieces that we're trying to attack to something like this, where we're moving our queen to try to put pressure on this rook. He decides to run away. We're going to continue to attack. And then from here, if he decides to attack our rook, that's totally fine. Because now we can anchor. We already have our pawn anchored. We can corner. This is check. The rook has to take. We promote our pawn. The rook captures us, like so, and then we send our rook up to a8 to finish the game. So, anchoring, we're providing backup, we're using our rook to provide backup to our pawn. Regardless of what rank or what file we're on, we always want to try to anchor that pawn with other pieces. Our opponent is going to try to block us to prevent us from executing our corner. That's totally fine. Use our other pieces to overload this rook here on a8 or any of the other pieces that are going to prevent us from executing our corner. And then just get it done. We just have to constantly attack, constantly overload the pieces that our opponent puts in front of us so we can just win the game. Make sense? Cool. Questions? Leave a comment, I'll answer them. Like and subscribe if you haven't or if you can't. And then I'll see you on for the next video, guys. Catch you later.